Hello and welcome to K2Watch with Aamer, Baig and Hasan Miraj.
The situation in Gaza, there are no words to describe that situation. It is definitely, without any doubt, a war of criminals, a mass murder of Palestinians, the killing of children, the merciless use of all weapons, including hunger and medication, against the poor, innocent civilians of Gaza. There is no excuse. It is not a war. It is not a war because war is between two armies. It is a conflict between oppressor and the oppressed. It is a fight and struggle between the occupier and the occupied. And it is a conflict between the victim and the perpetrator. So the world knows and the world is going with them, and this should stop. So let's pray and do our best peacefully and legally, whatever we can do about the Palestinian people. The second thing that I wanted to briefly talk about is the recent elections in Pakistan. There are so many aspects of the recent election in Pakistan, but one very remarkable and very astonishing and very pleasing aspect, which I just want to talk about, is the mental caliber of the Pakistani nation, which is demonstrated by them in this election. We see that with all the obstacles, the Pakistani nation, and especially the youth, they came out in huge number with all the obstacles put in their way, and they voted for the person and the party they wanted. They voted for Imran Khan and got him the most seats. That shows how mature is the Pakistani nation, how democratic is the Pakistani population, how intelligent and tech savvy are they. With all the problems, they were able to focus, organize, and give the votes to the persons of their choice. And that is amazing, and that is beautiful. And when we compare it with the so-called biggest democracy of the world, India, we see for the last 1 decade, who's being elected? A fanatic, a party that is known to kill minorities. Indian electorate is electing for last 1 decade and appears to be keep on electing the people like Modi, the people who are known as Butcher of Gujarat. So we compare the two nations, the two neighbors, and we see the difference.
And in Pakistan, they totally rejected those fanatic Muslims.
Yes, Pakistani electorate has always rejected. Pakistani electorate has selected in this election a person who is well known throughout the world, whose enemies also accept him as a real leader, a leader of conscience, a leader who can talk pure, who can act pure.
So come back to our main topic. What is the statistical data of Christians in India?
So there's a few points that I would like to tell about the Christian community in India. But before that, I want to say that the Christians in India are forgotten. Nobody talks about them. That's why me and Aamer thought that let's talk about the Christians of India. Even the Western world, the Christian world, has forgotten the Christians of India. But that does not mean that they are not persecuted in the Indian society. They are. So they make up to 2.5% of the whole population, which is about 70 million Christians in India. Out of them, 37% are Catholics, 76% say that they are very religious, and 74% belong to the lower class.
When that the first Christian came into India, and what is the geographical distribution in India?
So it is said in the historical, in the books of history, that the first Christians arrived in India as early as 1st century, and they were the followers of Jesus Christ. So they came very early in the time and life of Jesus Christ.
And distribution?
Most of the Christians currently, they are settled in the northeastern states of India, in the tribal areas like Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland. These are the places.
What is the socio-economical status of those Christians living in India?
A large majority, about 74%, belong to lower class. They usually run small businesses, they have small houses, they are in the villages, they are not very highly educated. So that is a small class with less socioeconomic power and influence.
So they are considered less than Shuddha even.
Yes, I mean, they are very low socioeconomics, unfortunately.
What is the recent chronology of Christians' persecution in India?
Uh, the persecution of Christians is not very obvious because they are a small minority and they are not influential, they are not financially strong community, so there is not much projection of what's happening to them in India. I have divided this section into two parts. One is the chronological sequence of events which has happened in the latest, let's say, 1 decade, and then I will go state by state to give you some data of the persecution and harassment of Christians in India. So the real target is the Christians who run the churches, the pastors, the religious Christians. Now, if we go back to 1999, the Australian missionary Christian whose name was Philip Timothy, he was in Odisha and he was murdered with his 2 sons. Actually, they were burned alive. This Christian missionary was actually helping leprosy patients in India, and he was serving the poor people there. But he was, with his 2 sons, aged 10 and 7, was burned alive. Then we move fast into last decade or so, last 2 decades or so. In 2008, in Kandalhan, Hamand area in Odisha, 395 churches were burned and 50,000 people became homeless. This is all about Christian community. 5,600 houses were burned and 600 villages were attacked. 400 riots happened in 2008 in different states. In 2015, there were recorded 365 attacks on Christian community. In 2021, there are about more than 300 attacks that occurred in different villages and different places in India on the Christian communities. In 2023, it is estimated that more than 500 attacks happened in different parts of India against the Christian minority, in churches, in their homes, in their villages. In 2022, there were about 600 incidents and harassment attacks that happened differently at different places throughout the Indian subcontinent, and there were lots of pastors put in jail, and they were repeatedly denied the bail. At one place, there were 35 pastors who were jailed, and they were continuously kept in jail, and the courts were keep on denying their bails.
What is the state-wise persecution of Christian in India?
There are lots of states where Christian minority lives in small pockets, and they are being harassed, they are being targeted, and they are being persecuted. If we go state by state, some of the prominent states where the Christians are being attacked time and again include Assam, Goa, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, West Bengal, Punjab, Karnataka, Jammu and Kashmir, and Gujarat. In Manipur, which is one of the northeastern state of India, where recently there were so many Christians who were killed because there is Hindu majority Mitai population and there is Christian cookies, and there was issue between the two communities about their rights, and the Christian community felt and claimed and accused that the Hindu majority were, stepping on their rights. And there were about, in a time period of 1 to 2 years, about 70,000 Christians were displaced, more than 200 were killed, 400 churches were closed. At one time, one of the archbishops said that there were 245 churches which were destroyed in a short span of 36 hours. If we look into New Delhi, there are many things that happen, but two important or two prominent incidents that I would like to tell you. In Delhi, there was a World Book Fair in 2023, and there being a book fair, everybody was allowed to put forward or make the appearance of their publications. So some of the Christians, they wanted to keep free Bibles. Those Christians were very badly treated by Hindu majority and Hindu fundamentalists, and they were very much harassed during that book fair. Then there was another incident in which a prominent Christian family was celebrating the birthday of their only son. And in that birthday, they were obviously singing and doing their some religious traditions and rituals. At that time, again, the Hindu fundamentalists, Bajrang Dal and RSS, members, they came in and they disrupted the function and they demanded that this should be stopped. So these are some of the examples how the Christians are persecuted. In Chhattisgarh, Bajrang Dal, which is again one of the very fanatic Hindu organization, they participated, and there's a record of about 84 incidents held where the Christians were very badly targeted. 50 Christians were killed, 10 pastors were forced to flee, and about 1,000 people had to leave the state. In the state of Bihar, Christians were forced to pray secretly. They could not go to their churches openly because of the fear of harassed and targeted and may lose their life. In the state of Indore, Hindu mob attacked the Christian centers, and the pastor Manish David was beaten badly. In the state of Tamil Nadu, there were 3 churches which were stoned, and the statue of Mary and the idol of Jesus were vandalized. These are some of the prominent incidents that I am trying to put forward. Otherwise, they are small incidences which happen every day in small places like villages, and they do not come to the surface. In the Uttar Pradesh province, in 2018, there were about 132 attacks on Christian communities. In 2021, there were 129 attacks on the Christian people. And this is compared to in 2014, when there were only 155 attacks on Christian community. And it is said that the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Adityanath, who is a Hindu monk, since he has taken over, the Christian community is under a lot of pressure, is under a lot of stress. Then in Punjab, in Jammu and Kashmir, in Gujarat, in Karnataka, there have been several incidences that keep on happening, which do not come to the information of the public and general media.
It means that Indian Christians are suffering in multiple states, so they must be thinking to convert into Hinduism. So what is their anti-conversion law in India?
So this is a very interesting phenomena, which is called the anti-conversion law, which means that nobody can convert from one religion to another. I mean, it's hard to imagine that a so-called democracy, Indian democracy, has this law. And at least 11 states have this law enacted and implemented. So the law says that no one can convert from one religion to another. The Christians can't be converted into Hindus, Hindus can't be converted into Christians, and Muslims can't be converted from one to another. So the why this law has been enacted is because they wanted to stop the Christian missionaries to practice and preach Christianity. In a democracy, it should be the freedom of speech, freedom of practice of religion, and freedom of culture, or all kinds of freedoms should be there. But this law prohibits any conversion. Now, what happens usually is that the Hindu fundamentalists, they come to the churches and they target the pastors and allege that the pastors are violating the anti-conversion laws and they are preaching to convert Hindus into Christians. But this is not happening, because if you look at the data, Christians from the very beginning had been 2.5%, and even today they are 2.5%. They have not become 25%. So the poor Christians are not able or not changing Hindu majority, which is 80%. So this application of anti-conversion law is against democracy, against human morality, against freedom of religious practice. But this is present in at least 11 states.
So what are the model protocols when Christians were targeted in India?
So this model protocol means that how the Hindu fundamentalists from RSS, Bajrang Dal, and other organizations plan and execute that plan in a certain way. So they attack and they blame Christians, especially the missionaries, that you are converting Hindus into Christians. And they allege and they find reasons to attack the houses, to burn the churches, and to decimate whatever is left in the Christian community. So what happens usually is that mostly the FIR is registered against the victim. That's very interesting. The police, the local police, they register the FIR against the victim. And the perpetrators, they go free.
FIR, first report of incident.
Yes, first investigation report. And the perpetrators are the people who have, targeted the Christians. They go free. And the victims are told that if you will continue to follow up with the legal system, you will be more victimized, because these Hindu fundamentalists are very powerful. So these poor Christians, they do not go further of the fear that there's nobody to protect them. So this is the typical model protocol, that they attack, blaming them, violating the anti-conversion law, or blaming them that the missionaries are trying to convert Hindus into Christians, and then the police is with them. So the FIR is not registered against the perpetrators, rather many a times against the victims, and then the victims are silenced because of fear of more damage.
So what is international community is doing? What is their perspective? What are their demand about the Christian persecution in India?
We see the governments, the governments of the Europe and even local governments do not want to involve in this, because of the fear that the India is a big economic power and the government to government relations will soar. So we see that very little is said by the governments to the government of India. But there are independent organizations, there are activists internationally who do comment, who do their best to bring this Christian persecution in India on the surface. So I will quote here some examples. Le Monde in France is a a publication, and that said very clearly that the Hindu extremists ruthlessly hunt down Christians in India, and they exploit the anti-conversion laws, which stay in 11 states. Senator Sam Brownback, who is a famous ambassador, in June 2023, he said that we should stop the endless persecution of Christians in India. Amnesty International has given a lot of details of the targeting of the Christian community in India. In April 2023, they documented, the Amnesty International, that the Dalit members of Gujarat were arrested because they tweeted that Modi should do something to maintain peace in the Christian communities. They gave the name of Jagnesh Mawari, who was an activist in Gujarat, and he had tweeted in his account that the government should do something. Then in June of the same year, human rights defenders like Tista Setalwad and the ex-officer Sanjeev Bhatt and R.B. Sri Kumar were arrested because of their work about Gujarat rights in 2002. Then the Amnesty International further document that in June, Muhammad Zubair, co-founder of independent fact-checking website, was arrested just because he was investigating the violence against the Christian community in India. And again, documented in June that human rights activist Javed Muhammad, his wife and daughter were detained and unnecessarily investigated and harassed because of their activism against violence towards Christians. 11 human rights activists are detained without trial, and those who were detained included Shoma Sen, Harry Babu, Mahesh Rant, poet Sudhir Dhawale, lawyer Surender Gatling, Rosa Wilson, Arun Ferreira, Vernon Gosagali, Kabir Kala, Ravesh Kakar, Jayoli Jagtap, Sogar Koki, Siddiqui Kapan. So these are some of the top names who were being targeted because they were bringing the truth on the surface. The Human Rights Watch says that in 2023, there were at least 147 deaths in police custody. There were 1,882 deaths in judicial custody. There were 119 extrajudicial killings. There were 34 Kashmiri journalists who were threatened, assaulted. Among them were Sajjad Gul and Fahad Shah. Both were finally arrested. Reuters quoted actually Anthony Blinken that he had grave concerns of what is happening in India. The Congressional Research Service, they reported that India has been designated the world's largest offender for the 5th consecutive year for blackouting internet at least 84 times in 2022. And that is a block or a blockade on free expression in India because of the activism to protect religious freedom in India.
How the American government has reacted about this?
So US Department of State in 2022, in the country report on human rights practices, it says that there are credible reports of unlawful, arbitrary killing. There is reports of violence and threat, extrajudicial killing and torture, and police targeting of people in minority communities. The annual report of US Commission on International Religious Freedom wanted to designate India as country of particular interest, but that did not happen. So, these are some of the international organizations who have tried to put the facts and truth in front. But it is very disappointing that the governments of the Western world are unable to push the Indian government to protect the minorities, and minorities like Christians, who are just 2.5%. And the reason for this is the geopolitical interests, the economic interests, the strategic interests, the defense interests. So the moral aspect of human life and the moral responsibility as a global human community goes down when it comes to economics.
Would you like to give some references about it?
The Vatican News, New York Times, Frontline Magazine, Pew Research Center, Christianity Today, House of Lords Library Report, Freedom House, and some others.
Thank you, Dr. Hasan Miraj. Very interesting topic. So sad that Indian Christians in India are being persecuted and nobody is taking care of it. We all must have to think about it. Next time we're going to bring another interesting topic. Keep watching K2Watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aamer.